had Jeannie Flame Harris, Donna Hyatt, Patty Harris, a few others. And again, they really made their mark because what it was about was being individual, and that personality and that individual character that they portrayed in the dance community and in the dance circuit. And nobody could touch them because that's what they did. So I wouldn't say there was a stigma basically with females per se. Yeah.
What do you think your 3 biggest accomplishments in dance are?
Oh wow, that's a biggie. I'm going to say Super Freak just because it's really notable. I choreographed Super Freak, the original Rick James video, and I'm the blonde in the purple outfit. And I cast that as well. So I'm the white girl. Then there's another white girl that's got dark hair. That's Kim McKillop. There's a black girl, Vena. And then Cheryl Song, who's from Original Soul Train, and she's Asian. So I'm going to say that just because it was a seminal event, and it was very early on in the video history. Within the first couple years of videos, people barely knew what they were. So I'm going to say that is one thing just because it's a key linchpin that's recognizable. Another thing I would have to say would be my reputation, which preceded me a lot of different places because of what I accomplished as a whole, my body of work, and what I would constantly show up as, and being consistent as an OG whacker, being innovative, having that combination of trained and street together, and just a really solid 10 years of being that strong presence. And then thirdly would be what I've created in the last several years with being at the WAACK Fest and then at Street Star earlier this year. And I judged, and I was the only female within 22 other male judges and teachers.
And what are you currently doing now? Well, what you want to do now to help push the culture forward?
Right. So when I saw how prevalent whacking was all around the world and how powerfully it was showing up in just amazing numbers of countries, I committed to have whacking as a dance form show up in the greater hip-hop community battles, for instance, that usually are just restricted to locking, popping, house, top rock, New Jack Swing. And typically, now interesting you're saying about males versus females, that is the greater part is men in there. And the women that show up don't show up as like this. I mean, they're very boyish looking. They don't have that feminine way about them. When I did Street Star for my exhibition piece, I used Shaka Khan's I'm Every Woman to give women a place to be represented. And at the end of my exhibition piece, I brought all the women that were competing in the whacking category on stage with me and included them. So that's really my mission, is to include women in this distinction of being elegant, being very feminine. So going back to what I saw in the world was that whacking was not being represented on a worldwide scale in these other battles. And I committed to having it show up and be available so that the whacking community all around the world could come and have more places to show up and not just compete, but just really show up and make their presence and energy known, because whacking has a unique energy to it. When I got back from my tour in Sweden, London, Paris, New York, I met a gentleman by the name of Cross One, and he and his partner do freestyle session, and that's never included whacking. And I talked to him about and had a conversation, and now for the very first time it's going to be include whacking this Labor Day weekend here downtown at Club Nokia. Yeah, the weekend of Labor Day. So I really created that opportunity, and it's showed up, and I'm actually going to be judging it, and I'm just very excited. So what I began to create is finally powerfully showing up immediately. So I'm excited.
And what would you want your legacy to be? How would you like to be remembered by, your children,
Right.
Future generation of female whackers, and just the universe?
That I authentically brought the conversation from the original intention of whacking and where it came from, and my peers and the original gentleman that created it. And I authentically brought that conversation forward and transformed it into the art of self-expression and movement in language that was intended in every generation in any time. And that is, it's accessible to all who are willing to learn the distinctions, to learn what it's about, and really get powerfully present to the conversation of what whacking can bring in terms of the show me the music is a really good way to put it, is that the person, the dancer in the movement, hears the music, embodies it, and expresses it in their unique and personal way to inspire those watching to be touched and moved by their understanding and interpretation of what's going on inside of them.
What advice would you have for a young male dancer that would like to start whacking,
Mm-hmm.
and also what advice would you offer for a young female
Mm-hmm.
that would like to start whacking?
Well, for the male, I would say first of all that they don't have to see it as gay versus straight. It's not about that conversation. It's really getting in touch with who he is. I do, for instance, for my curriculum, I start with a mirror exercise, standing in front of the mirror and getting really present and powerfully related to oneself. And then that's where the conversation begins. And then expressing whatever training level they're at, whatever abilities they have, whatever understanding of the conversation of the arms is, but really powerfully related to oneself. So as far as a male, I have a very dear friend that's a powerful whacker, just amazing. And he has explored what whacking's about and the attitudes and the space that's used in whacking, the environment, the floor, being up, being sideways, being down, how dramatic it is. So just really be unlimited. And for the women to really get in touch with their feminine side, very, very much so. Because it began for the Andrew and Lonnie and Tinker and all these gentlemen that created this style. It began by them modeling the 1920s and beyond movie stars of the golden age, and how dramatic that was, and the look and just the whole essence of that glory. And so for women to really get connected with their feminine side in that's to me the most precious part of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.